The air inside the small Chicago diner was warm and smelled of fresh coffee and sizzling bacon. Maya and Tasha Williams had chosen this spot for its quiet charm, a place to unwind after weeks of intense military training. To anyone watching, they looked like two ordinary women enjoying a peaceful evening. Maya, with her leather jacket and calm demeanor, exuded quiet confidence, while Tasha, in her crisp white hoodie, had an easy, approachable smile that softened her otherwise intense presence. As they sipped their steaming mugs, their conversation flowed effortlessly, stories of their missions, light jokes about who had the better aim. But their tranquil bubble burst when the door slammed open, the sharp sound cutting through the diner like a slap, drawing every pair of eyes toward the group of men stomping inside. 5 of them, loud, obnoxious, their laughter echoed off the walls, but there was nothing joyful about it. The leader, a man with a shaved head and a Confederate flag tattoo stretching across his forearm, sized up the room with the kind of smirk that sent a chill down your spine. When his eyes landed on the sisters, the smirk turned predatory. "Hey, look at this," he announced loud enough for even the cooks in the back to hear. "Double trouble, huh?" The diner atmosphere shifted in an instant. Conversations stopped, forks clinked against plates, and everyone suddenly seemed very interested in their food. The waitress, a young woman with a name tag that read Jenny, froze behind the counter, her hand hesitating over the coffee pot. The only people who didn't react, Maya and Tasha. They exchanged a glance, one of those wordless sibling looks that said everything. Maya's eyes narrowed slightly, a silent reminder to stay calm. Tasha raised an eyebrow. A silent question. Are we really doing this today? The leader of the group wasn't done. One of his friends, a wiry guy with a patchy beard, stepped closer to their table, leaning his weight on the edge. "What are 2 girls like you doing here?" His tone was slick, oozing false charm. "Shouldn't you be somewhere else?" Maya placed her mug down carefully, her movements deliberate and unhurried. She looked him square in the eye, her voice calm but steady. "We're just here to have coffee. Move along." The man didn't budge. Behind him, his friends chuckled, their laughter low and mean. The leader strolled up and pulled out a chair, spinning it around before dropping into it. He leaned his elbows on the table, his grin wide but far from friendly. "You think you can just tell me what to do?" His voice was sharp, laced with mockery. "You got a smart mouth for someone who doesn't belong here." Tasha's hand tightened around her coffee cup, her knuckles white. The waitress shifted nervously behind the counter, her eyes darting between the group and the sisters. The tension was thick, the air crackling with unspoken threats. Maya reached out and placed a hand on Tasha's wrist, a silent reminder to stay cool. She turned back to the leader, her voice even. "We don't want trouble. Let's not make this worse than it needs to be." For a moment, it seemed like her calm demeanor might diffuse the situation, but the leader leaned back, laughing, a cold, hollow sound that made the other patrons sink lower in their seats. "Oh, you think you're in charge here?" He glanced at his crew. "Boys, I think we need to show these 2 who runs this place." The men began to close in, their voices growing louder, their taunts sharper. The room seemed to shrink as their presence grew oppressive. And yet the sisters didn't flinch. If anything, their composure only seemed to rile the men up further. One of the men reached out, his hand hovering toward Maya's shoulder, a sneer twisting his face. That was the moment everything shifted. Maya's eyes flicked to his hand just for a second, and in that split moment, the storm they had tried to avoid came crashing down. The instant the man's hand touched Maya's shoulder, it was over for him. She didn't hesitate. Her body moved like it had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. In one swift motion, she grabbed his wrist, twisted it behind his back, and shoved him forward. The crack of his knees hitting the table rang out, followed by a sharp yelp of pain. The diner fell into stunned silence. For a split second, even the hum of the refrigerator in the corner seemed to stop. Then, chaos erupted. The story continues with the same action-packed intensity and justice-driven theme, with Maya and Tasha facing police bias, media manipulation, and ultimately, their fight for the truth.